하나, 둘, 셋.
Lasting battery life.
Awesome screen, awesome camera, long lasting battery life. Awesome screen, awesome camera, long
This part I cannot do.
screen, awesome camera, awesome screen, awesome camera, awesome screen, awesome camera, long lasting battery life.
We did it! Okay, so this is clearly not our thing. It's not the time to dance. But it is time to talk about the Samsung Galaxy A51 and A71. In the past, it was always very hard to recommend mid-range Samsung handsets. I mean, sure, they're the biggest smartphone maker in the world, but for some reason, they just sucked at making good value mid-range smartphones. Then we saw what I like to call Samsung's mid-range renaissance, and suddenly their mid-range smartphones, at least on paper, looked pretty good. And the latest smartphones to join this new revamped lineup is the Samsung Galaxy A51 and Galaxy A71. Normally at this point, I tell you what Samsung tells me are their smartphones, like, key selling features, and then I tear it apart and analyze it and let you know whether it's good or not. But by this point, you probably already know what those are.
Awesome screen, awesome camera, long lasting battery life.
So I thought, let's see if these smartphones lived up to those claims. And we'll start with the
Awesome screen.
Okay, this I can vouch for because Samsung's new smartphones, they actually have really awesome screens. They're both Super AMOLED displays that push a Full HD Plus resolution, and they're also Infinity O screens, so you get like a small little cutout at the top for the camera, which I think is like in the least obtrusive part lah. The only difference between these two screens is that the Galaxy A51 has a 6.5-inch display and the Galaxy A71 has a 6.7-inch display, so you get a little bit more real estate with the A71. Both panels are vibrant, they're sharp, they've got good contrast and good viewing angles for AMOLED displays, so I think a lot of people will be very happy with these screens. So I guess good job Samsung, these are really nice screens. Now let's move on to the next aspect, the
Awesome camera.
This though I can't really agree with, but it's not because I think that the A71 and A51 have bad cameras, it's just that awesome is a really strong word. So both of these smartphones have quad camera setups with a wide-angle camera, an ultra-wide-angle camera, a macro camera, as well as a depth camera. The only difference between the two is that the wide camera or the main camera on the A51 is a 48 megapixel camera, while the A71 has a 64 megapixel wide-angle main camera. So when it comes to mid-range smartphones or smartphones in like this affordable category, their cameras, you usually expect like a couple of things. Number one, they should be pretty good in like good and really nice daylight settings, but the moment that things get dark, you can expect the smartphones to like start to struggle a lot. And with these two new smartphones, I have to say that they definitely live up to those expectations. Now, daylight shots look pretty good with a good dynamic range, good exposure overall. In fact, I think that you can definitely see the Samsungness in those photos, something that people who have shot with the Galaxy S10 and the Galaxy Note 10 will probably recognize. However, once the lighting conditions get a little bit dark, then the photos start to lose color saturation, but I will say that noise is handled pretty well and the image is still rather sharp. That said, I think the biggest difference between this and like a more capable camera is when you're shooting in like a really challenging lighting condition. Like if you're shooting at a bright outdoor scene from like a dark indoor scene. So like, I mean, just take a look at the way these photos from the A71 and A51 stack up to something like the Mi Note 10. The difference here is pretty obvious. I did, however, like the selfies taken by the 32 megapixel selfie camera. I think the skin tones are pretty good, the image is pretty sharp, and when you turn off beauty, it actually turns off beauty completely. Overall, I'd say that there are pretty decent cameras, but I wouldn't go so far to say that they are awesome. Which I guess brings us to the next point, which is the
Long-lasting battery life.
Full disclosure, I was not able to fully test this aspect of the smartphone because I didn't get to spend a whole bunch of time with the devices. Like, I only had like a couple of days with them. So the good news is that they do look very good on paper. So both smartphones come with large batteries. You've got a 4000 mAh cell on the A51 and a 4500 mAh cell on the A71. Plus, both smartphones come with fast charging. The A51 gets 15 watt fast charging and the A71 gets 25 watt fast charging, which is always nice. So instead, let me just talk about my experience with the performance of these two smartphones. So although they're pretty similar in other aspects, on the inside they are quite different smartphones. So on the Galaxy A51, you're seeing an Exynos 9611 processor that's mated to 6 gigs of RAM, while on the Galaxy A71, you're getting a Snapdragon 730 processor that's mated to 8 gigs of RAM. Now the good news is both of these smartphones come with 128 gigs of internal storage as standard, and you can further expand that via a micro SD card. But the difference in performance is definitely noticeable, especially when you're doing stuff like gaming. COD Mobile was playable on both the A51 and A71 at the maximum settings, but the A71 definitely had a much smoother and more satisfying gaming experience. That being said, I don't think that you will really notice the difference if you're not doing something intensive. If you're just doing day-to-day stuff, they should be pretty similar. Another good thing to note is that neither of the phones got uncomfortably warm even after an hour of gaming, so I guess that's pretty good. Speaking of how they feel in your hands though, these Galaxy A51 and A71 smartphones, they feel exactly like Samsung's new crop of Galaxy A handsets. So they've got the same kind of feeling whether you like that or not, but the good news is that they are still very light and very thin if that is something you're looking for in a smartphone. They do, however, come with a new sort of geometric pattern on the back, which I guess adds a little bit of flair. So I guess for the most part, I'd say that the Galaxy A51 and A71 are predictable updates. I mean, they're the spec bump that you would expect from what I would consider is a regularly scheduled update. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that means that these smartphones still have access to something that only a big smartphone maker like Samsung can give their mid-range devices: the secret sauce that I like to call Samsung's ecosystem. On top of access to Samsung's ecosystem apps like Bixby and Samsung Health and the security afforded by Samsung Knox, you also get access to my favorite feature, which is Samsung Pay. Yeah, it's only the NFC version, but I use Samsung Pay anyway at contactless payment terminals, so I don't think that this is a really big issue. That said, I do understand that when we're talking about smartphones in this class, the most important thing to discuss is the smartphone's price. So the Samsung Galaxy A51 is priced at 1,299 ringgit, while the Samsung Galaxy A71 is priced at 1,799 ringgit. So for the A51, it is retailing at the same price that its predecessor, the A50s, launched at, while the Galaxy A71 is actually retailing for 200 ringgit less than what the Galaxy A70 launched at back then. And that's pretty good, especially when you consider the fact that these smartphones are definitely better across the board than the previous generation devices. Of course, if you compare it to phones from brands like Xiaomi and Honor, stuff like the Honor 20 series and the Xiaomi Mi 9T series, then those smartphones would have better specs for the price. But then those devices don't have access to Samsung's exclusive ecosystem features like, Knox and Bixby and Samsung Pay and all that. Plus, I also prefer the Samsung Android skin over Xiaomi and Honor's Android skin. So I guess what I'm saying is this. Yes, Samsung didn't completely undercut their competition. So if you're someone who is a really purely specs hunter, then you'd probably be better off with an awesome bang for buck Chinese smartphone. But if you care about stuff like Knox Security, Samsung Pay, and the Samsung ecosystem app, the good news is that you won't look super ridiculous right now if you choose to pick up a Samsung mid-range device. And that for me is a victory. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the notification bell icon so you don't miss any of our future uploads. You can also like us on Facebook, but our home will always be at soyachinchow.com. Until next time, I'm Rory and I will see you then. Bye!